this morning in the program. And you will notice this picture, the statue, is the statue of Mikaeri Amida. And as Mikaeri literally means looking back. So this is Amida looking back. And as Terry read in the opening remarks, Mikaeri Amida is a statue of Amida looking back over his shoulder, encouraging laggards to hurry up and join the group. It is a symbol of Amida leaving no one behind. Amida includes everyone, regardless of any other condition, and he is looking back to make sure everyone is included. Further, as part of the opening remarks, there's a sentence that says, "This figure symbolizes the compassion of Amida, who never abandons anyone, always showing concern, especially for the laggard, the lost, and confused." Lost and confused, who could that be? Amida's compassion includes everyone, regardless of being rich or poor, regardless of being wise or ignorant, regardless of being a monk or a householder, and regardless of being a man or a woman. And it was very radical at the time to consider that even a woman could find enlightenment. We have to remember, by that time in the 1200s, 1100s, 1200s in Japan, Buddhism had become an institution, sort of in many ways closed. It was led by closed-minded, celibate old men. And Buddhism took on a model at the time that the more difficult the physical practice became, the better it was. For example, one of the Tendai practices at the time would be to walk down from Mount Hie, the mountain outside of Kyoto, walk down from the Mount Hie into the city of Kyoto at night for 100 consecutive nights. It would be about a 10-hour walk down and up the mountain. Another old Tendai Pure Land practice would be to continuously circumnavigate, walk around an Amida statue for 100 days with only 2 30-minute breaks a day. It was assumed Shinran did the circumnavigation practice, but no one knows for sure. But it was believed that the more difficult and the more strenuous the physical practice was, it was a way of disciplining the mind and body. In many ways, doing difficult practices really did not help the monks find enlightenment. In a way, it was the opposite. It was a way of showing up other monks who had failed to complete the practice. So in many ways, it was the ultimate ego trip, which is the opposite of what was intended to do. You know, to show up your fellow monks that I can do this practice and you can't. So it was the opposite of disciplining your mind and body. But those were the practices of the day. And Shinran had failed to find enlightenment after 20 years of various practices on Mount Hie. And he was looking for something else. Fortunately, he met Honen, who became his teacher after leaving Mount Hie and the Tendai practices. Shinran and Honen and Honen's disciples broke the thinking that physical practices were required. And it was also the radical idea of allowing women to follow the Nembutsu path. And it was allowing women into the Sangha that led to the exile of Honen and Shinran. Honen and 5 disciples, including Shinran, who were defrocked and exiled. It was common practice and belief at the time that women were incapable of enlightenment and that women were unworthy of being Buddhist practitioners. Such is the practice of celibate old men leading the organization, the institution. But Shinran wrote and said that Amida never abandons anyone. He meant everyone and everyone. And he made specific efforts to include women. Just on a side note, and there will be another side note, the water feature in the Legacy Garden, it was designed by Mr. Kurisu, who was a Jodo Shinshu follower, the uncle of the late Reverend Watanabe. But anyway, there's a water feature in there. In the summertime, the water drips and there's a ladle, and I remember myself, thinking, we don't need a water feature. It's too much bother. The weather's too unpredictable. And I remember talking to Mr. Arao, and I said, are you sure you want a water feature? And he said, yes. He said, because there was a lesson. And it was when Shinran was doing these physical practice, and I think it was a 100-day walk down from the mountain at night. But Shinran was tired, thirsty, hungry, and he sat to rest. And someone gave him a ladle of water to drink. And he took the ladle and he drank the water. Then he looked up and saw that it was a woman who gave it to him. And he was horrified, because in the Tendai practices, you're not supposed to associate with women. They were, impure or, a distraction. So, but Shinran realized when you're hungry, tired, when you're thirsty, when you are offered water, you take it. Doesn't matter who offered it to you. So this is a big reason why there's a water feature in the garden, but it showed that Shinran realized, man or woman, it didn't make any difference. When you're thirsty, you accept the water. Thank you. End of side note. But Shinran wrote and, always said, Amida never abandons anyone. And Shinran saw that Amida excluded no one. The Nembutsu path, this path we say the name and title of Amida Buddha. We say Namo Amida Butsu. This is to accept Amida's vow that would assure everyone to be born in the Pure Land and to become a bodhisattva of the highest rank, and eventually leading to Buddhahood. So it's the pure practice of Amida as the bodhisattva Dharmakara, who made 48 vows, and he practiced for 10 kopas. It was the fulfillment of these vows that allowed him to become Amida Buddha. For 10 kopas, the fulfillment of the vows created this vast storehouse of virtue and merit that is given to all sentient beings. It is given in the form of wisdom and compassion. Again, a side note. There are various descriptions of how long a kalpa is. But one of the common descriptions, and the one I like, to describe the length of a kalpa. A kalpa is the length of time it takes to erode a granite slab a mile cubed, a mile wide, a mile high, and a mile deep. To erode this slab of granite with a silk scarf, with a celestial being coming down once every 100 years, brushes across the granite slab, and to erode that slab is the length of time of one kalpa. And then Dharmakaya practice for 10 kalpas. So it is a way of saying an immeasurable length of time. But that is the literature also of Sanskrit and in Mahayana Buddhism. It's very flowery. It just doesn't, when you could say in Pali, it's a very long time. Sanskrit in Mahayana Buddhism would take 10 pages to describe how this celestial being coming down once every 100 years and then eroding that granite block. But Dharmakaya practice for 10 kalpas. It's an immeasurable length of time. And the symbolic Amida Buddha created this vast, immeasurable storehouse of merit and virtue that allowed everyone to have a means, a way to enlightenment. And Amida Buddha did not leave anyone behind. All are included. That's why the Mikayati Amida is so important. A reminder that it includes everyone. And there is, this is also part of the reason we celebrate Pride Month in June. You know, what ties in with Pride Month, because we are reminded that everyone is included. Pride Month started in 1969 with the Stonewall riots in New York City. Began with a series of gay liberation protests. The gay men were a minority population that was always there, but it was excluded from mainland society by a series of laws and a general level of discrimination. It was in 1999 when then President Bill Clinton officially declared in a presidential proclamation that June would be Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And through the years, the gay men's movement came to include other groups. In 2011, President Barack Obama expanded the official Pride Month to include the whole of the LGBTQ plus community. LGBTQ plus refers to gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, and others. And this is a group of people who are still discriminated against because of their sexual orientation or how they self-identify themselves. And they are also often the victims of not only of discrimination, but of violence and death. And I'm not sure why they are discriminated against. For the most part, the LGBTQ plus community is gentle and law-abiding citizens, yet they are singled out for hatred, bigotry, violence, and discrimination. On a simple human level, I know who I love, and it doesn't matter to me who another person loves. I know that is too simple. I don't understand why one person tries to dictate or force others on who they can love or who can they live with. Here at MBT, we get educated more, and I thank Karen for this insert this morning in the program. It's not just LGBTQ+. It is now 2S, LGBTQIA+, and more. Two-spirited, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning queer, intersex, asexual, and more. That this is a group who are discriminated against because of their sexual orientation or the way they self-identify. Here at Midwest, we have the Niji Dharma group. Niji meaning rainbow, to be all-inclusive. And this is the spirit of, this month, to include everyone, not to exclude, not to differentiate. And it goes back to perhaps a few years ago when it was more prominent that Black Lives Matter. Black lives matter because all lives matter. All lives matter because Black lives matter. And the LGBTQ plus community matters because all lives matter. And all lives matter because the LGBTQ plus community matters. But I wish we didn't have to make these kinds of distinctions. But we do. We have to accept these because we have to be like Mikaeri Amida. We have to make sure we don't leave anyone behind. We have to ensure that everyone is included. As Shin Buddhists and as people embraced by Amida Buddha, we include everyone. We make sure everyone comes along, the laggards, the lost, and the confused, as well as everyone else. And thus we can say, come as you are. Namo Amida Butsu. With gratitude and kindness beyond words.